everyone, and Happy New Year. Thank you guys for sticking around. I do want to just tell you guys that I am recovering from COVID, so if you see me coughing, just don't be alarmed. Tonight we have a great show for you. We have researcher, author, and experiencer Max Hawthorne, and we're going to be discussing the megalodon. So let's say hi to Max.
Hi, Max.
Hi. Hi, Max. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. And by the way, I actually have COVID also, so we're on the same page.
Oh, do you? Okay,
Yes,
great. We had
hence
it
the
over
tissues
Christmas,
and
and
everything.
then
Yeah.
it just yeah. This is my first bout of it, so I'm like the doctor said you're gonna be slow to recover from it, and I'm like great. So, but I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I didn't know you had COVID too.
Oh, it's all right. We do what we can. I didn't want to leave you high and
Right.
dry.
So, oh no, I appreciate it. I really do. So, and
As
I
he
love your
sips out of
mug,
his
by the
daughter's mug,
way.
it's my daughter's. If she finds out I stole
I
it, I'll
love
be
it.
hearing it later.
I'm I'm a very big mug person. I like it. So, why don't you tell a bit about yourself for those who don't know you?
I'm sorry. Say again.
Oh, so why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself for those who don't know who you are?
Sure. Gosh, I should pull up my bio and read that whole boring thing. Let's see. That should be interesting, actually. Why don't I do that? This way, it's better than me just like rambling on and on and on and stuff. Although it's kind of rambles
That's
also. Let's
fine.
see. Max Hawthorne is an American author and screenwriter, referred to as the Prince of Paleofiction. He is best known for his Cronus Rising series of sci-fi suspense thrillers, which have garnered both Book of the Year and People's Choice Awards. He is the Amazon #1 best-selling author of the cryptid research book Monsters and Marine Mysteries, as well as Memoirs of a Gym Rat, an outrageous expose of the Hell Club industry. It's really gross, that stuff. And the children's book I Want a Tyrannosaurus for Christmas. His song, A Tyrannosaurus for Christmas, peaked at #2 on the 2021 World Indie Charts. He has been interviewed by both The Washington Post and Fangoria Magazine, has appeared on QVC, Spaced Out Radio, Coast to Coast AM, and in a Tribe Called Quest's rap video, I Left My Wallet in El Segundo. I was the cop. And it goes on and on about a lot of other stuff, where you're born, yada, yada, yada. Lives in the greater Northeast with his wife, daughter, and a pair of enormous Siberian Forest Cats, one of whom you met, who, when they're not stalking Max's toes, sleep on his desk
Yes.
as he writes. That's about it.
Well, I
So
figured that it's easier for the guests to like explain themselves better than I could. So,
I can't
so
remember
I'd
all that
rather have
stuff.
the
And if I
guests
read,
explain it than me. But
yeah, if I read the rest of it, I would have gotten tired just reading it. It's like, do you actually do all this stuff? My God, how do you have time to live? So anyway,
right.
well, thank you. I'm happy to be
So,
here.
what would you like to? No, I appreciate it. What would you like to talk about? Would you like to talk about your Bigfoot experience first, or do you just want to dive into Megalodon?
Let's do the Bigfoot thing first and get that out of the way. Actually, I
Okay.
actually managed to dig out some stuff to go along with it to spice it up a little and all that. Keep in mind, I mean, all this is in
Okay.
Monsters and Mysteries in a lot more detail than I'm going to remember here. But
Mhm.
so basically, when this happened, I was not even really aware of the existence of Bigfoot. Okay, this is almost 30 years
Mhm.
ago, and back then, my family, we had a house on Candlewood Lake up in Connecticut in Danbury. So attached, Candlewood Lake is a very large lake. It's like got 50 miles of coastline, so as you can imagine, that's fairly sizable. Connected to it, and technically part of Candlewood, is this lake called Squance Pond, which is, I guess, a couple miles long or something like that. Maybe 60 feet deep in places. And Squance is kind of like state park. Okay. So it's connected to the parent lake. And they had built a causeway, piled up rocks and stuff between the two so that cars could drive over. Okay. And this causeway, so it has like, it's either a 1 or 2 lane road. I don't remember, to be honest. It's been so long, but it has so that the waters can flow back and forth. There's like a steel reinforced concrete, like, I don't know, duct that goes under the road. Maybe it's 6 feet wide or something like that. So water and wildlife, fish, etc., can flow back and forth. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
with all the rocks and gravel piled up around there and stuff, we figured, my brothers and I, since we like to fish, we figured that there'd be a lot of crayfish there. So we came up with this genius plan. I think it was summertime. I could not tell you the day or anything like that. Obviously, it's so long ago. But and we got up when it was still pitch black out, and we drove to the lake. We had like live shiners that we picked up the night before, and fishing with bobbers with shiners under them, if you know what that is. So our plan
Kind
was to
of,
go.
yeah.
Well, we figured there'd be crayfish all around those rocks and stuff. We didn't know for sure, but
Mhm.
it made sense. We figured there'd be a lot of bass lurking around the shallows, especially crack of dawn. So we'd be putting minnows in front of their faces, and we'd clean up, catch a lot of fish from shore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for us, we didn't check the weather. It had rained its butt off all the night before. And when we got there and the sun was just coming up, the water, even though it was flat calm, it was the color of coffee, like dark,
Hmm.
dark, dark. And that's bad news, like for bait fishing,
Yeah.
because if the bass doesn't like run smack into the bait, he's not going to find it. Like lure fishermen know, in those
Right.
conditions, you use a lure that's like a bright chartreuse with a lot of vibration to try and get a strike, etc. But we were inexperienced, so we
Mhm.
sat there for I don't know how long, half an hour or something like that, an hour. We had our rods out, we were getting nothing. So this was on the Squant side, mind you. Okay. And so my brothers
Mhm.
decided, we're going to go cross over and try the Candlewood side, which means you go up the hill, cross that road, down the other side. In a straight line from where we were sitting, that might have been like 50 feet. But, it's a little different when you're going to go up,
Mhm.
cross, etc. And of course, you got to be careful. So I was like, go ahead, go,
Yeah.
go. I'll stay here. And I figured, sibling rivalries, I'll be by myself when the fish turn on. I'm going to catch
Mhm.
like a lot more or whatever. I'll get the bigger fish, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting on like a bucket, flipped over bucket, and nothing's going on. The lake, there's nobody awake. There's nothing out there. Tiny bit of mist floating around and stuff like that. Sun's coming up and all. And then I start seeing this thing out in the water. And distance, I mean, I have to go back there to really gauge it. It might have been 100 or 200 feet away initially. But it was this like dark
Mhm.
object. It was on the surface and it was moving around, and then it disappeared. And then it came back up again, a little bit closer, and then it disappeared. And it would disappear for like a minute or two at a time. So I'm staring at this thing, and I'm like, at first I thought, "Ooh, there's a big fish," but then I realized it wasn't a fish. I noticed that it was like a kind of dome shaped and hairy. Like it looked like it was like a beaver, like it was a reddish
Mhm.
brown color. Okay, so I thought, "Oh, it's a muskrat."
Yeah.
And then it got a tiny bit closer, and I'm like, "No, that's too big to be a muskrat." I'm like, "That must be a beaver," like a beaver's butt or back, sticking up like that or something like that. And I'm like,
Mhm.
"No, it's not a beaver. Not that I don't even know if there are beavers around there, but anyway." And so I
Yeah.
continued to watch it, and it kept doing the same thing. It would go underwater, disappear for a minute or two, and then pop back up, maybe 5 or 10 feet closer. I don't know. I have no idea what it was doing. Okay. And then I started seeing other parts of it though as it got a little bit closer. Like there seemed to be like a body behind this, what I realized was a head, and then like limbs or something like that. And so I'm like, is that a deer? And I'm like, no, because the deer have that classic, fake Loch Ness monster profile. The body's floating, the
Yeah.
head and neck stick up, that type of stuff. And I saw the head at the top of it. It was like a dome. So that didn't make sense. And then I thought, is this like a big Irish setter? Because it was kind of that color. But that didn't work either
Mhm.
because it wasn't a dog and it kept diving, which was really weird.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
it's gradually getting closer and closer. And I'm like, what am I looking at here? I forgot all about the fishing at this point. So I stood up and I'm trying to peek over and see. And I can see now that that dome thing is definitely a head. And there's like, parts behind it. And then there's what look like legs. And I could see the legs move as it would submerge. And they were together though. They didn't do a flutter kick like a person. They moved together, like like when girls wear those mermaid tails, this type of stuff, or they have like swimming fins that are one
Yeah.
piece, whales flukes. They move together like that as if they went under.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I have
Hmm.
no idea what I'm looking at. Okay, but it's gradually getting closer and closer, and I'm thinking, gosh, I wonder if I should try and like cast out and see if I could snag this thing, you know, which would have been, as it turned out, a very very bad
Right.
idea. Okay, from the
Yeah.
distance, yeah. When it was that far away, like we're talking at least 100 feet
Mhm.
still. maybe 150 feet. I thought it was maybe 5 feet long. Okay, on a guess. So it started getting
Mhm.
a little closer, and it was moving more towards the center, I guess, towards where that big pipe was, which was right kind of next to me. It might have been like, I don't know, where I'm sitting on the rocks, maybe
Mhm.
20 feet, 30 feet to the, that, I don't know what you call it, like trough of water going through, and that might have been like 8 feet across or 10 feet across at certain points. But so I decided I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to, and it was getting more bright out, by the way. This was important because I saw this really clearly.
Mhm.
And so I figured, let me get up, and I'm going to start backing up the hill, and I'll get higher up so I can see down on this thing better, you know, like a vantage point like that, and see through the water a
Yeah.
little better instead of coming at it like this. And that was my plan. So as I started to do that,
Mhm.
it's treacherous footing there, and I dislodged a bunch of the rocks and gravel, whatever, and made some noise. And I think this thing had never realized that I was there the whole time. See, I think it was eating crayfish. It was diving down. It was catching
Mhm.
crayfish, coming up to eat them, whatever, breathing, going back down, this type of stuff. Like potato chips type thing. You got to
Yeah.
have whatever.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about this until I'll explain more. But when I went on a show and I got proof of this, but so when the rocks moved, the thing knew I was there, and it was alarmed, and it like rolled like this and dove and went under the water. And as it did, I saw its arm, like its shoulder
Oh wow.
and its upper arm and its forearm, like this, cut across like that. Okay,
Mhm.
all this was visible as it went under the water, and it had an arm like a very muscular person. It was definitely anthropoid. Okay, but covered with
Mhm.
thick reddish brown, obviously drenched hair, but very muscular. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck is that? And it went underwater, crashed like that. And I thought it was a huge orangutan or something like that at this point, which is, of course, crazy because who has an
Mhm.
orangutan wandering around Connecticut? You know, Made no sense. So the thing was
Right.
swimming like
But you
a
never
god.
know.
But like I said, I still had no idea about Bigfoot at this point. Okay, all I know is I just saw like a
Mhm.
huge, like a big ape-like thing, like its shoulder, arm, all this stuff. It was very
Yeah.
muscular. I got to give it credit. He must have been pumping up a lot. But so it swims through the channel right next to me, and I had rushed over there to look, and that was a little bit scary because from a distance it looked small. But when it went through the channel, the shadowy form that I saw under there was quite big. And the water, I remember the water in the channel went like this, like, woo, woo, like up like that, like something very large
Wow.
had passed through at high speed. It kind of scared me a little
Mhm.
bit, to be honest, because I'm like, whoa, what is that?
Yeah.
And so, so I ran up the hill, almost got hit by a car, crossed over,
Mhm.
grabbed my brothers. I'm like, look, I was calling it the hairy red thing. Okay. And I said, there's this big hairy red thing. I said, it's swimming through the pipe. It's going to come through right now, right now. Just watch, watch, watch. Of course, this thing was quick. And by the time I got up there
Mhm.
and almost got hit by a car, it had already gone through. So by the time I got down on the other
Yeah.
side, it was already gone. So we're standing there, and the seconds are ticking by, and they're like, you're full of it. You're an idiot. The usual sibling
Mhm.
insults, whatever. So then
Yeah.
as I was being berated, there was this like crashing sound in the water off to our left, and there were these lily pads along the edges of the edge of the lake there. Like, I don't know how far they stuck out, like 5 or 8 feet or something like that. And there was something under the lily pads that was thrashing around and then moving along and then thrashing around and moving along, etc. So I think this thing went under the lily pads for cover and was using them to work its way around
Mhm.
until it got around the point, and then it disappeared. So I didn't think much of it, honestly, up until I started doing research for Monsters and Marine Mysteries. And then I realized, holy crap, I'm like, this thing must have been a Bigfoot. So I started looking, researching,
Mhm.
and I found an old newspaper article from like 100 years ago or something like that from the lake. And it said like fishermen report hairy wild child swimming in lake. That's what they called it. And I spoke to some researchers, and they said back then that's what
Mhm.
they used to call them, because the term Sasquatch or Bigfoot wasn't even coined yet. That happened like whatever Pattinson's film and all that stuff. See,
Yeah.
so that's I found evidence of that. And then the interesting thing for me is that, and let me just pull this up, is that I was on this this other show like a little over a year ago, and this guy, he is a
Mhm.
celebrity chef whose name will not be mentioned, but he was listening to the show I was on. I was talking about this stuff, and he said, "Yo, I just listened to
Mhm.
today's episode about Candlewood Lake. OMG, I know the place well. We used to camp there back in the late 70s and early 80s. I have fished the same causeway that Max described and know the tunnel well. And yes, we gathered crayfish there to roast on our campfires. Anyway, we were camping there one night and heard rustling around our tents and kind of brushed it off as deer. But the next day, we went fishing, and when we came back to camp, our tents were destroyed and everything was thrown everywhere. We just thought it was some crazy hippies and never thought twice about it. A few weeks later, my buddies wanted to go back there to camp for the weekend. Excuse me. And I told them that I didn't want to go because all my stuff got destroyed last time we were there. They went without me, and when they returned, I kind of poked fun at them and asked if the crazy hippies came back and trashed their camp again. They said no, but they said when they went out in the morning, I got to get the rest of this, to go fishing in their canoe, they said that they were about 30 or 40 feet offshore. Now, this would be the wood side of Squan's Pond, just as we understand that. And Squan's
Mhm.
Pond, like the woods there, if you ever go hiking in there, is incredibly rough. I mean, like I've been up there. There are boulders the size of houses. There are huge inclines,
Oh wow.
treacherous footing, so thick. I mean, it's like jungle.
Mhm.
You know, you could not if you ran through there carelessly, you'd break a leg, knee, your neck, whatever. I'm just telling you. So anyway, um, so
So
30
yeah,
or
so you have to be very agile to get through there, basically.
right. I mean, like, and
Yeah.
careful. I mean, very careful.
Yeah.
I mean, if I showed you photos, you'd be like, wow,
Mhm.
because it's like the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
Okay. So they said they were
Right.
30 or 40 feet from shore. They heard crazy thrashing in the woods, and a buck came
Mhm.
crashing through the woods and jumped into the water in front of them like he was running from something, and he swam by them like he was crazy with fear. Then they heard something in the woods where he came from running after him, meaning after the deer, but it stopped just before the clearing. Now
Mhm.
I'm just going to interject. Like I said, you ain't running through these woods, okay? And no runner is going to be able to chase and
Yeah.
catch a deer, okay? Deer are designed for this, but anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so then they
Yeah.
heard something in the woods where he came from running after him, but it stopped just before the clearing. They figured it was a hunter or something like that, but didn't see anything. Then they said that whoever it was for the next half hour or so would throw a rock or a stick at them every couple of minutes or so. They just thought it was the hunter pissed off that they were there. They called out to him and said that they were in a canoe and to stop throwing things at them. They never got a response and everything just stopped and they went on their way without incident. That was the last time any of us went there to camp because hold on, let me get the rest of this. We thought that the place was just cursed with craziness, but after I listened to Max's story, it just makes sense that maybe they encountered what Max saw. Holy cow, after all these years, I never even thought that it could have been a squatch. Love your show. So, point is that somebody else who had been in that exact area, I mean, everybody
Mhm.
knows that a Bigfoot is a primate, and primates, and they have a reputation for throwing stuff
Right.
at people, hiding, throwing pine cones, throwing
Yeah.
boulders, all different stuff. So it makes sense. And since this is like
Mhm.
state land, basically, I would imagine that these things, like I thought it was a young one, and maybe he was like sneaking out, with a crayfish
Mhm.
addiction and the crack of dawn, taking advantage of that type of stuff. But I know what I saw, and let me tell you, it
Right.
freaked me out. I mean, like
Yeah.
when you see a big, hairy, muscular arm like that, I mean, like humanoid, you know, like, and you're
Mhm.
after you just spent like 10 minutes trying to figure out what you're looking at, and now you totally don't know. I just really, I thought somebody had a pet orangutan that learned to swim
Yeah.
and liked to swim and dive for crayfish, but it was a lot bigger than
Yeah.
I thought when it
But
passed
it
through that
wasn't
little
that.
channel.
Yeah. Did it have a smell? Because I've heard that some Bigfoots they do have
I,
smells.
I wasn't that
Did you smell
close.
anything?
No, and it
Hmm.
was when it passed me, it was
Okay.
underwater. So, but
Okay.
I
So nothing was like coming up. Okay.
no, it's funny too because
That's
several times
amazing.
over the years that I've been in that area, sometimes we've seen like
Hmm.
helicopters like searching over the woods and stuff like that, and my dad was like, oh, probably some criminal
Yeah.
or escaped from the prison or something. I have no idea. But anyway, but yeah, that's
That's very common
they
from what I hear.
they can apparently swim, and if it's ever proven they exist, when people see they swim with their legs together, they're gonna be like, hey,
Hmm.
Max was right. Look at that. Eh.
Actually be
That's deep.
terrified seeing that. Like I don't think I can handle that, you
I wouldn't
know?
want to see it on dry land. And to be
That
honest,
does sound terrifying.
I mean, can you imagine if I cast a lure out there like with treble hooks and snagged it? Phew. I mean, I'm sure I would
Yeah,
have gotten
that would have been
schooled,
bad. That would-
or it would have like
yeah,
realized what was the problem and said, "Oh, let me come over here and have a conversation with you," you know. And I would have been like, "Whoa,
yeah.
later." The
Be like,
hairy
take my
red thing.
fishing pole, take everything I have. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Oof.
I lucky you didn't do that. so
Well, I don't
so
like to
I
start
do
trouble.
the reason you're here. The reason you're here is we're going to talk about another aquatic cryptid, megalodon. So,
Yes, the
firstly,
famous
what got you into this subject?
what sharks?
Sharks, megalodon.
Well, let's see. I've been fishing since I was like 4 or 5 years old. I got an IGFA world record to my under my belt. Could have had more, but I refused to kill the sharks that we caught. But I mean, I write about marine cryptids. I fish for them, or
Mhm.
well, I fish. Let's put it that way. Some of the things I've caught. I mean, if you've seen some of the fish I've caught, you'd be astonished. I've caught fish big enough to eat people. No joke. But
Oh,
that's
jeez.
it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, initially, like my first novel, Cronus Rising, it didn't have a megalodon in it. It had that thing right there. Actually, that one's fighting a megalodon right there. But
Hmm.
these giant prehistoric marine reptiles called pliosaurs that were kind of like the sperm whales of their day, I guess you'd say, or something. And as you start doing
Hmm.
research, you learn more and more and more about it. I mean, I actually ended up delving into paleontology as a hobby, solving the mystery of how plesiosaurs swam, solving the mystery of why plesiosaurs had such long necks, lots of other stuff. So you just kind of accrue all this knowledge after a while, and the more you do, and the more research you do, the more things you discover. I've discovered some things about megalodon that some of the fanboys out there probably don't like. They protested a lot. There's websites out there dedicated to try and discredit my megalodon theory. One of them. It's crazy.
That I did not know.
It's true. See,
That's
a, lo-
yeah,
every,
that's interesting.
well, you see, everybody likes to portray Carcharodon or Carcharicles or Ototus megalodon as this giant super predator. But the truth of the matter is that this shark split off from another shark called Ototus chubutensis, for many millions of years ago. The two swam the seven seas together at the same time. Megalodon got bigger than Chubutensis. Chubutensis topped that around 40 feet. Megalodon was probably able to hit the mid 50s or maybe even close to 60 feet in length. But there's reasons for that. These animals, the reason they branched off is their teeth are very different. Ototus, I mean, a Chubutensis's tooth are like a giant great white shark's. They're triangular. The crowns are thin from the side, like a white shark's, etc. More of a predator. Megalodon's teeth evolved differently, and I've got some stuff for you actually. Since you wanted to talk about all this stuff, so this is now this is not a fresh megalodon tooth, so don't get excited. This is a cast of a six
Okay.
inch megalodon tooth. Okay, I have
Oh
several
wow.
fossilized white ones in my collection, actually, but right now
Hmm.
for display purposes, I'm not going to dig those out. So this
Okay.
is probably a UR1 or 2 upper right side tooth. Okay,
Oh
this would be the
wow.
actual front side here. Okay, the
Hmm.
labial side and the lingual side is on the back. So the display side, the curved part, this is really the
Hmm.
inside of the mouth. Okay. So what's interesting about this tooth crown is if you look at it, it has interesting shape. Besides the fact that it's very thick from the side and slightly curved, okay, is that the crown is not a triangle like a white shark's tooth. You notice how it has this column-like center here, and then these cusps flare out.
Yeah.
So as I was
Hmm.
studying more and more with these teeth, and try to figure out there's no other shark that has teeth like this. Why are they like this? Okay. As I started realizing these teeth were designed to function like bone chisels, see, meaning that when the shark was feeding on a whale, it would be trying to bite through the rib cage.
Hmm.
Now, whales have very thick ribs. I mean, like I've got fossil ribs here, I'm going to show you in a minute. And these ribs are very hard and they're made of bone.
Okay.
And these teeth are embedded in jaws made of
Hmm.
cartilage. so they can easily be broken off or break, etc. So you don't just come at a whale,
Hmm.
smash in the bone, bite, and then lose a third of the teeth in your jaw. That's kind of counterproductive, even though they can be replaced. It doesn't like make sense. So
Right.
the what happened with these teeth is they were designed to function like you know what a log splitter is?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you take a log splitter and it's sort of shaped like this and it has serrations, and you hammer it into a log
Hmm.
and the log splits apart. You know, for firewood, that type of stuff. Okay, so what
Hmm.
these teeth would
Right.
do is you would have whale ribs like here, here, and here, and you'd have teeth here, here, and here. And so these teeth would come in and they would go between two of the ribs like this. And then once they got to a certain point, like you're seeing it touching
Hmm.
my fingers there. Actually, well, let's get a whale rib over here actually to show you.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a chunk of one. Okay, then as it got to a certain point, those cusps would dig in to the ribs on either side, and it would crack, crack, and it pop them apart because you'd have
Hmm.
tooth, 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 rib, rib, rib. Understand? So pushing, slicing,
Yeah.
serrations, etc. And you can see this right here. We got physical proof, and I have numerous fossils like this. I don't know if this is going to show too well or not,
Hmm.
but if you look at this rib here, okay, you're going to see multiple gouges on it. You see that one there and that one there. Now these are feeding marks to
Yeah.
scores a megalodon shark.
See those.
So
Yeah.
if I take this right here
Wow.
and I line this up, you'll see it fits perfectly in that groove. Okay. Yes. So there's multiple grooves though.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
and the first one
That's
just
amazing.
sliced, but
Hmm.
the second one, if you look down here, I'm going to show you right. I got to get this in the right spot here. Okay, where am
Yeah.
I? I'm upside down. Okay, right where my finger is here. This one right here. You see how that groove ends in a
Hmm.
big,
Yeah.
huge gap of broken bone right there? That's a fracture point. So as the tooth reached
Yeah.
a certain point and squeezed on the other side, this rib, pow, exploded basically,
Hmm.
cracked, fractured apart. And this tooth fits perfectly into those grooves.
Right.
Okay. So we have proof positive that this is how
Hmm.
they were breaking open rib cages with their specially designed teeth. And this is only in the upper jaw that these teeth did this. So when sharks feed, especially white sharks and other sharks like that, lemon sharks, they do a fork and knife routine. The lower teeth, which are thinner, stab into the body to pin it, and then the upper teeth, the lips peel back, and then this comes down
Hmm.
and it gouges in. So this would come up to a whale and it would feel around, press between the ribs,
Wow.
and be able to bite clean through all that and
Hmm.
take out a huge mouthful of bone, heart, lungs, etc. This was highly useful for the animal, very nutritious meat, a lot of it.
Hmm.
And if a carcass had been there for a long time and it was stripped by other sharks, smaller megalodons, things of that nature, etc., and if all the blubber and the guts were gone already,
Hmm.
this still let this fish have a huge meal of breaking through that protective rib cage and eating everything in it. See? So that's how it works. But the thing is that suggests, though,
Hmm.
that this only worked if it was eating carrion. Because a whale is not going to lie on its side and say, "Yeah, big boy, just fit those teeth right in there. There you go. That's it. Now bite." It has to be dead already.
Right.
See? Which means that the larger
Okay.
fish, which were, of course, slower and more cumbersome, were
Hmm.
eating mostly carrion, which was provided for them by the smaller megalodons, which were still fast enough to make kills. The whales back then were only 20 or 30 feet long
Hmm.
anyway. See? So it's kind of like a food pyramid, and the big sharks basically got their dinner, from the smaller, the juveniles, the subadults, let's call it, and that's how things worked out. So the
Okay.
animal, as they got bigger, they switched from mostly hunting to mostly scavenging. And people don't like this because they're like, "Oh, it swam at 70 miles an hour. It could jump up and take planes out of the air and all this other stuff." But that's not the case. Physics doesn't work like that. So this theory is not popular with some
Right.
people, but it makes more and more sense. And I have so many fossils to back it up now. It's insane. And not just whales, dugongs, all sorts of you'd be amazed. So anyway,
Oh wow. Well,
so
it seems like
there's
you have a bunch of fans in the chat room.
oh wait, you're gonna like this one. Now this,
Okay.
okay, is a piece of a big fossilized whale rib. Now this is interesting because hold on a second, let
Oh
me get
wow.
the exact date for this. Okay, so this is from the Lee Creek Mine. Okay, a phosphatic Miocene strata, Lee Creek Mine, North Carolina. So this is from the Pungo River Marl, and this rib is between 23 and around 16 million years old. Okay. Now, there's two interesting things about it. The first is that
Wow.
this is from a very large whale. And as most people know, the
Hmm.
great whales didn't start to evolve until about 4.5 million years ago. But this came from a big whale, which means it could have been Leviathan, the Leviathan sperm whale, which is the only big whale that I'm
Hmm.
aware of that goes that far back. Now, what's interesting is that this was actually scavenged by a megalodon. You see that, if you can see it, you see that big groove. It's so hard to do this reverse. That goes
Yeah.
along the rib like this. Okay, so that is a tooth
Yeah.
groove, a very large megalodon tooth. Now check this out. Remember how I told you how these cusps
Wow.
cut in when they got pressed down at a certain point? So if you see this
Hmm.
and you slide this in, actually this would have turned this way, anterior like this, and it got to a certain point. Okay, here you see how the groove gets thicker and wider and deeper there. That's where the cusp started to cut in. But the thing
Hmm.
is, if we take this tooth and we put it all the
Oh,
way
wow.
here, this tooth does not cover it. See? And this is a 6-inch tooth. So the tooth that bit into this
Hmm.
had to be maybe 2 inches longer than this, possibly an 8-inch tooth. I mean, it was a gigantic
Oh,
megalodon, is what I'm
geez.
telling you, that was feeding on this
Yeah.
carcass. Okay. So, but it shows you how the
Oh,
cusps
boy.
cut in like that. And it's fascinating because, like I said, this rib may have come from a
Hmm.
Leviathan. So interesting stuff. But anyway, so what else did you want to
That's
talk about
fascinating.
megalodon?
That really is. Yeah. Did Megalodon have any predators? Or was it just basically the predator of the day?
Well, I mean, that's, obviously nobody was back there, but I would imagine there was competition between them and the chubby tensor sharks. Although when they got to a certain size, sharks tend to be size oriented in terms of who gives way to who or whom. So it would be easy for a 50-foot
Hmm.
megalodon, say, to appropriate a carcass from a 30-foot chubby tensis. The shark is going to give way to a much larger predator. I believe that Leviathan probably had the same relationship with megalodon that the great white shark has with the killer whale today, which means it was probably occasionally preyed on by the whale, although it wasn't its main prey. It's just more like an opportunistic thing, or it saw the shark as an annoyance, or maybe they were like orcas. Orcas can be a little on the sadistic side, as people know, you know. So I don't know that it heavily contributed to the
Hmm. Yeah.
shark's extinction, let's say, because I mean, white sharks and orcas have existed together for millions of
Hmm.
years. We know orcas, when they want to, they kill white sharks and eat their livers, etc. So it was probably a similar relationship, but not like it wasn't a predator prey relationship, let's say. Does that make sense? They had different niches.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I you have a documentary out and I did get a chance to watch it and it's fascinating. So my
Is this the
question to you is,
whale carcass?
did Megalodon kill the whale? Yes.
I Yeah, I addressed that in the documentary. If people haven't, do you have a link that people
Right.
can go to see it? Like, are you going to provide the link for
Vincent should
your
have the
viewers?
link. Yeah, he should.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he should have it. He can put it in the chat room.
Cool. I mean, if they go
So,
on,
yeah.
I don't even know the name of my own channel these days. What is it? Max Hawthorne's book trailers and videos, I think is the name of it. Yes. But if you go on
Hmm.
there, it's called Mega Shark or Megalodon. And what happened is this past
Hmm.
July, we had a subadult humpback whale carcass come ashore off Briar Island, Nova Scotia. And friends of mine are specialists in this, and they took all sorts of photos of the carcass at sea and when it was on land, etc.
Hmm.
And what was fascinating is there were at least two very, very large shark bites on the carcass, and you guys will be able to see this in the video at length. The bites are at least a yard across. They appear to be white shark bites,
Hmm.
though, which supports the notion that several marine biologists in the Discovery Channel have stated where they feel that occasionally great whites experience or suffer from gigantism, which is a known phenomena. We see it. I mean, I talked about it in Monster Marine Mysteries. I have caught beetles that are supposed to be only an inch long, and I've caught them that were 2.5 inches long, the same exact species. The American toad, which is supposed to get to only
Hmm.
4 inches, sometimes goes to 8 inches, etc. So a white shark that's normally topping out at 20 or so feet, getting almost twice that size is not an impossibility It's, fish, indeterminate growth, that type of stuff. But I think that it was a white shark
Right.
that did this. I crunched the numbers. People seen the documentary, and the fish appears to have been at least 32 feet in length, which is a hellaciously huge shark. I mean, you're talking something the size of the fish in Jaws 3, which, people like because, that's something for reference, etc.
Yeah.
You know, it always scared me as a kid when the guy got swallowed alive and eaten. Remember, even in the mouth, getting chewed up and everything like that. It kind of freaked me out a little bit. But
Yeah.
so I mean, it looks like the whale was initially injured by a ship strike from a prop. It has a huge wound that you can see in the
Hmm.
photos on its shoulder, one side, and by the base of its neck. One of the big giant bites is right next to that wound, which of course is interesting.
Hmm.
But it looks like the whale was hurt, and then a really big shark came up and bit it on the tail region to immobilize it, and it finished bleeding out or whatever, and it started to feed. And it took a big bite, like I said, out of the coda region in front of the flukes. There's a huge bite right next to the ship strike, the prop wound there, and probably some on the front of the head that we can't see from the photos that we got. But we were able to crunch the numbers and
Hmm.
everything. You could see tooth gouges on the edges of the wounds. There's no doubt these are shark bites, and they are ginormous. But megalodon is unlikely. I mean, a megalodon could have caught a humpback that was hurt like that. So that's, obviously a possibility. But
Right.
the thing is that it takes normally a breeding population of at least 500 animals to sustain a population genetically. Say, whereas if you have a great white shark that
Hmm.
occasionally suffers from gigantism, you can have some freak that appears every few years or something like that, and it doesn't reproduce necessarily or pass on the genes because it's so big. I mean, if you're a 32-foot male white shark and you try approaching an 18-foot
Hmm.
female, she's going to be terrified and run for her life. See, and the reverse, if a male white shark
Right.
that's like 60 feet long tries approaching a female twice as like 8 times his mass, he's going to get eaten. See, so passing on the genes is
Hmm.
not likely, but this gigantism thing. I mean, in Monsters and Marine Mysteries, I think I documented at least 4 or 5 giant sharks. The biggest of which is the one Simon Pierce photographed in 2017. He photographed a whale shark off of the
Hmm.
Galapagos. It was a 40-foot whale shark, the size of a big bus, and it has a 4-foot bite scar on its rear caudal region. The same region, in fact, where the humpback was bitten. So
Hmm.
4 feet across. That's even bigger.
That's
That's the big.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually there's photos of
Yeah.
his whale shark documentary with the bite and stuff. But so his
Oh, wow.
discovery
Yeah.
holds the record for the largest proven bite, extant bite that I'm aware of. But we had the beast of Briar Island, which was a white shark estimated 26 feet from
Hmm.
that same region. There was the one I called the Perth Canyon Colossus. I don't know if you ever
Hmm.
saw the in Discovery. They had that Super Predator special. When they said there was a 35-foot white shark in the kill zone.
I
You know
think
what I'm talking
so. It probably was a
about?
while
Yeah.
back.
I
I
analyzed
think
the
so.
bite
Yeah.
marks. Yeah, it was the pygmy blue whale that had a big bite on its upper peduncle. The Well, anyway, so that
Yeah.
was in there. A bunch of different like mega sharks that all the evidence has been collected,
Hmm.
photos, etc., and stuff. This didn't make the book, obviously, because this happened after that. And there's another one that I had. I got evidence of. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think where it was. Is a little smaller, probably about 28 feet long, but also it was a white shark with a giant bite on it from a much bigger white shark. So there's a lot. There are big sharks
Oh,
out there.
wow.
I mean, big. You would not want to be in the water with one of
So,
these things.
no, no, I would not. Trust me.
But I like to.
So,
I'll fish for them.
is this have you so you've caught them alive. You've caught sharks, these large sharks
I have
alive.
caught many species of sharks: makos, hammerheads,
Hmm.
bull sharks. I've never landed a white shark. I did release the world record blue shark and the world record nurse shark
Hmm.
unharmed. That blue shark was 12 feet long and it weighed, like they said, 730
Oh,
pounds.
wow.
Which is, a nice tussle. But that's small potatoes
Hmm.
compared to, I mean, this shark from Briar Island that we're talking about must have weighed 8 or 10 tons. That's not a
Right.
small fish. You ain't going to stop that on a
No.
rod and reel. Not
Now,
normal size.
do you just Do you just
That
fish for fun or do you tag them and release them? Oh, wow.
you, you see that right there?
That's,
That is the one I was telling you
yeah.
about. Now they were initially saying her name is Seabatch, that great white. Okay, I
Hmm.
spoke to the guy who did all the photos and stuff, and they put that in like I forget what some UK paper, and they were claiming she was 15 feet long, but that's an exaggeration. She's only actually around 11 feet long.
Hmm.
I guess they thought that would, but still, that bite is about 30 inches across, which
Yeah,
is
that's pretty
enormous.
big.
Yeah, and you could see individual tooth notches on there, etc. It's another shark bite. I have all the photos, not
Hmm.
just this stuff, from the original photographer, including showing on the belly region where
Wow.
the stuff, the rake marks are from the lower jaw teeth, etc. But yeah, that's evidence of another mega shark right there. But to answer your question, I fish. I guess you'd say for fun, for the
Hmm.
discovery. It's like the Forrest Gump saying, life is like a bunch of chocolates. Well, fishing is the same way.
Yeah.
You drop your line down there, you never know what you're going to get, you know? So,
Hmm.
but I release like 99% of the fish I catch. I'm not into killing animals or
Hmm.
anything like that. If we catch a fish, even something big that's like not doing well, like it's exhausted, we'll actually run it beside the boat, like hold it in the water and move the boat slowly so the water goes through its gills and resuscitate the fish
Hmm.
so that it can be released safely, and not fall to the bottom
Yeah.
and die or whatever and stuff. A little hairy when you're dealing with sharks and stuff. They're not exactly the friendliest critters, but you know.
Yeah, I can imagine trying to release them. They're not too
Oh,
happy with you to begin with. So,
I remember the first
so
shark
is
I ever
this?
caught. I'm sorry, God.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, my charter captain, they had it pinned to the side of the boat while they're taking the hook out, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to touch it?" I'm like, "Sure." He goes, "Watch your teeth." I'm like, "Nah, you ain't kidding." It was like just a 7 foot blue shark, about this maybe your
Hmm.
size or something like that in terms of mass or whatever, but it felt
Hmm.
like stone covered with an inch of tire rubber and sandpaper on top. I mean that
Oh
powerful.
wow.
It was really something. These experiences are great as an author in terms of bringing these things to life and your books and stuff like that. But I'm
Hmm.
sorry I interrupted you.
Oh no, that's fine. That's amazing. In a way, I would love to do something like that, but another way, I would be terrified because I'd be afraid it would whip around and just grab me. So
Well, that's why
I'm
you got
amazed
to
by
get
that.
yourself a good charter guy crew that knows what they're doing, and make sure you're going to stay safe. And if you're ever going to go down to Florida or Jersey, I know people I can introduce you.
Okay. Okay, that sounds great. So is this are we talking about the Galapagos giant? Is that the one we're talking about?
That was the that's not the one in the documentary. That is the one that
Okay.
has like the biggest bite I've ever seen.
Okay.
I mean, now
So
to be fair, in the
mhm,
interest of clarity, 10 years ago or something like that, somebody sent me a photo, um, and I've never been able to use it because I don't know who sent it to me, or anything like that. So I wouldn't have permission copyright wise, but they sent me a photo of a
mhm,
humpback whale. It's flukes coming up out of the water, and it has an enormous bite out of one fluke. Like you could see it. It's like tom 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 tom, individual tooth notches, white shredded flesh, etc. And you can't say how big the shark
mhm,
was that did
mhm.
this because you don't know. Is this a calf? Is it an adult? It's impossible to gauge that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And if it was an adult, the bite would be gigantic. I mean, like 5 feet across at
Mhm.
least, maybe six. But yeah, the Galapagos giant, which is a moniker I slapped on it in Monsters and Marine Mysteries, is the name I gave
Yeah.
to this shark that attacked that big whale shark in the Galapagos, and that's Simon's baby. And
Okay.
you got to respect that man because he swims with whale sharks and gives them sonograms like pregnant whale sharks.
Mhm.
Okay, but to be in the
Oh
water
my
with
gosh.
a whale shark with a bite
Mhm.
this big taken out of it, I would be looking around going, I wonder
Yeah.
what did that, and if it's around here anywhere, because you're in a swimming, you're in scuba gear and you're bite sized at that point.
Mhm.
Just something to think about.
That he's amazing. I couldn't do it. Yeah, right?
That was a
Oh
big
my
boat right
gosh.
there.
That's oh wow.
Yeah, that was on a
Oh my
long line. I
goodness.
think you could see the heavy cable in its mouth, and it was exhausted, and probably a white shark came up
Mhm.
and made a meal out of it. So
Ooh. Oh my
yes,
gosh. That's amazing. That really is. So the megalodon was about 60 feet, right? Give or take.
I
And
I
then,
think I
so
mean,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, I did some number
Oh,
crunching
no, go ahead.
recently on megalodon size and all that. And yeah, I would say the shark was in at least the upper 50s and stuff. You see people coming out
Hmm.
with different like theories and formulas and all this stuff. But there was a piece I did, like an interview about megalodon moms and whether they lived in cold or warm water and all this stuff. And I was able to do the number crunching, and I discovered that we have not discovered the biggest megalodon teeth that have been out there, like in terms of the big teeth. Like this,
Hmm.
like I told you before, this is a principal tooth,
Right.
right here, dead center, biggest tooth in the jaw,
Yeah.
basically. Okay. But if you pull up one of those megalodon jaws you had, go ahead, slap one on there.
Hmm.
Let's see. That one's not very accurate, actually. Yeah, that's not going to work. See, if you see the teeth on the edges of the jaw here, like the laterals and then the posterior
Hmm.
teeth, the teeth get smaller as they go around. When they use teeth that are all
Hmm.
big, it makes the jaw look twice as big as it's supposed to be, and that's not how it works.
Okay.
I mean, I could send you like a jaw to show you accurately, but if you had
Hmm.
time to slap it in there, but you guys probably don't because you got to load it and stuff. But if you go on like
Yeah.
well, the point is this: so the teeth start off big and then they get smaller as they go towards the joint, okay, where the jaws meet, upper and lower.
Hmm.
Okay, so the like I have a virtual museum of fossils and stuff. And now, like it used to be very difficult to crunch maximum tooth size in a specimen based on individual teeth because there weren't complete sets. You know what I mean? Now there are several
Hmm.
complete sets of teeth out there. So I was able to do that. And
Oh, wow.
so you see, like, okay, let me just pull up a thing here. So I'm going to show you a fossil tooth. Okay. And this is a lower right jaw tooth. It's either number 9 or number 10. Okay. And that's up for dispute.
Okay.
Okay. So the number 9 tooth in the larger jaw, complete jaw out there, which includes teeth pushing 6 inches, the number 9 tooth would be 74 millimeters in slant height, which is a little less than 3 inches. This tooth is over four
Hmm.
inches this way. So this shows you that this shark, this exact tooth in the jaw, which is one of the tinier teeth, okay, was at least a third
Hmm.
larger than that specimen. So this shark, its biggest teeth were over 8 inches in length, and that's a fact. Okay, that's if it's a number 9. If it was
Oh,
a number
wow.
10, I don't even want to crunch the numbers,
Hmm.
okay, because then you find yourself in crazy territory. It's one thing to say that this shark's
Yeah.
largest teeth were 8.5 inches or 8.25 inches long. That's gigantic. It's bigger than any known specimen. But if this
Hmm.
was a number 10 tooth, which would be even smaller, and I scaled up, it would be insanely big, and I don't even want to go there. Okay, so is it a number 9? Is it a number 10? We
Wow.
don't know. But oh, and you'll like this.
Where
This
would?
is the
Oh, go ahead.
exact tooth from the same area, mother and baby. Okay, I don't know
Oh,
if
it's
you can
kind of
see.
cute. Oh.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
teeny tiny little thing, but it's the exact same tooth in the jaw.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Oh.
I talked too
Now,
much.
where? If I wanted to find a megalodon tooth, where would I find? Where would I go to look? Like,
eBay,
would I go
eBay.
eBay? And then
Yeah.
where would I go? Where would I go hunting if I
If you
wanted to
want to
go
go
hunting
looking out
for
there,
them?
I mean, you can go all sorts of places there. I mean, a
Yeah, if I
lot
wanted
of
to go
places are
hunting.
getting shut down and stuff. Um, I mean, if you want to go to the Lee Creek mine, you can try that. You can try the Morgan
Hmm.
River. You can try the Cooper River is another spot. I mean, there's a lot of places. It's all areas where,
Hmm.
like in Florida, stuff that used to be underwater, and those rivers were
Okay.
still there, but obviously they were like deeper, and the large
Hmm.
females would come in there to birth their pups, let's say, and
Hmm.
a lot of times you find the baby teeth because when they hatched in their nurseries or hatched or gave birth in their nurseries, they would stay there, it appears, in the shallows where it was safe until they were big enough to go out into the open sea. Like Goliath grouper, those huge
Hmm.
fish that I've caught. I've caught 400 pounders, but
Yeah.
they'll stay in the mangroves. they're tiny little things
Wow.
until they get to a certain point. Maybe they're 3 feet long, then they'll go out and move out to reefs and stuff like that because they were predators. So in
Hmm.
megalodon's day, the babies were like, I guess, around 6.5, 7 feet long when they were born. It was not safe to go out in the open sea. You had other megalodons that would eat them. You had chubby tensor sharks that would eat them. You had
Hmm.
God, there's giant prehistoric makos, ancestors of the great whites that would eat them. There, they even had these weasel sharks called oh my gosh, I just did a piece on it. I can't think of the name right now. That's what happens when you have COVID and too much cold medicine. But they even
Yeah,
had some sharks like it looks like they went into the
exactly.
nurseries and hunted them. Yeah. But so it was a dangerous ocean
Hmm.
out there. I mean, if you've got 25-foot mako sharks out there and you're a 7-foot megalodon, you're lunch. See, so the pups would stay in the
Yeah.
nurseries until they got big enough to go out in the open sea and fend for themselves. So that's why you have different teeth at
Hmm.
different sizes at different places. But the bigger teeth are usually the spawning females that would come into the shallows to give birth and then go back out to sea. So I got some
Hmm.
adorable baby megalodon.
Is
I got one. It's like a gem, so perfect. I mean, it's like
oh.
1 in a million.
Hmm. Oh wow. I bet that's amazing. I really do. I'm jealous because I'm interested in that. Is there a complete skeleton somewhere of a megalodon, or we haven't found that yet?
No, the skeletons are made
No.
of cartilage. So there's some vertebrae that are,
Hmm.
um, some that'll be discovered. But I believe I think it's in Zurich. I think they have like a partial skull or something like that. Not from an adult or anything like that. I mean, but if you ever want to get your hands on stuff, go to Fossil Shack, fossilshack.com, all one word, and you talk to Seth and you tell him
Hmm.
you know me, and he'll take care of you. Seth,
Okay.
he
Okay.
provides full mosasaur skeletons for museums. I mean, like the size of a bus. You
Oh
name it, he
wow.
has it. So whatever you'd possibly want to,
Wow.
and he'll take good care of you. He's a great
Hmm.
guy.
Okay, sounds great. So my I have I think a couple more questions, then we're going to take some audience questions. So we talked about megalodon being around, I guess, 50 feet or so, and then the Galapagos giant was about 40 to 42 feet, right? Around in
Yeah,
there.
that's the going by the
Would that be
formulas.
fair?
I have. Yeah, Simon said the bite was about 4 feet across, so I think that shark would probably have been
Yeah.
around 42 feet long. So, which is
So
big.
with these gigantic sharks, yeah, with these gigantic sharks, is there ever a possibility for a megalodon sized shark to be born? Or is
Well, I
that just
mean,
like
if
a one in
if
a million?
well, I mean, look, your average megalodon adult, I think they said was only 35 feet long. You got to think of it like relative to the great
Hmm.
white. You know, I mean, we know that white sharks can get into the low 20 feet. I've proved that they get bigger than that, but these may be gigantism
Right.
incidents again. But so let's say that we know your average adult white shark is what, 16 feet long. So if you scale it up, the average megalodon was
Hmm.
35 feet long. That's a decent sized fish. So if we had a white shark that was 40 or 42 feet, gigantism or not, that's still in the size range. Are we going to get something the size of, something that was, feeding on whales 3.6 million years ago or longer? Doubtful, but then, you never
Hmm.
know. Once the human race gets out of the way, maybe they'll come back, or the white shark will evolve into something
Right.
like that, or it'll split off, and we'll have like white sharks, and then we'll have a larger version that's more of a scavenger type thing. I don't know, but still, I
Hmm.
mean, a 40 foot
And there's
shark
so
would
much
be
of the
amazing.
ocean. Yeah. And there's so much of the ocean that hasn't been explored as well. So you don't know what's really down there, too, if you think about it. So that's another thing, at least in my opinion. So, and I do have some questions for you. Are you okay with
Oh,
taking those?
bring it on.
Okay. So, so Vincent wants to know, what do you think the blimp was?
The bloop. The bloop
Yeah, the
has
blip.
been dismissed as being an iceberg, I think, dragging along the bottom. I listened to it at
Mhm.
normal speed, and it doesn't really sound organic to me. It's like when they speed it up like 16 times, it does. But there is another sound out there. I think it's called Julia or something like that. And I'm not, this isn't my area of expertise now, but I've read that the sound seems to coincide like every spring or something like that with this region where they keep seeing this shadowy form moving through the water around the same time of year that's supposedly bigger than the Empire State Building. That's what they say.
Oh
Okay, so
wow.
I don't know what that could possibly be, etc. But you know, but I don't think I think the bloop has been pretty much discredited. The Julia thing, oh, look, Olaf wants to gnaw on a 15 million-year-old whale rib. Look at the baby. Should I introduce him to the audience or no?
Sure. Yeah. Everyone would love that. Trust me.
All right, let me see. Hopefully he's not going to get grumpy. Watch Max. Did you see Max get mauled by his Siberian Forest Cat on the air? That was great. Oh, he's tired and sleepy like me. All right. Oh, so this is one of the behemoths that sleeps on my desk as I write. Mwah. This is Olaf.
Oh.
He is a Siberian Forest Cat, and he's a big, beefy boy, as you can see, like a cow. But anyway, ugh. And ouch, Sharpdale, thank you. But sorry, buddy, sorry about that. He hates being thrust into the limelight and stuff. But yeah, I have these two knuckleheads.
But
It's in
he's
my
so
bio. It
pretty.
says, yes, and they're very lovable. I mean, they're so playful and so human. I mean, they have emotions. It's like the other day, like Mace, his
Mhm.
brother, was on the island eating, and he pigged out, and he was like stuffed. And then like he lay on his side. He was like sitting there like this, like ugh. And I took the food and I pushed it close to him. And you know how like when a person goes to like a buffet and they eat so much they're going to throw up, and you have that like he looked at it like this. He was like, ugh,
Yeah.
and he like just pushed it away like that, like get that away from me. And it was such a human gesture.
Like
It was
no more.
hilarious. Yeah, he was like, oh,
Oh.
and he loved it. It's his favorite meal, but enough is enough. So
But he was
yeah,
so stuffed.
my hairy little
Oh my goodness.
stepsons
So, he's your writing partner.
and my editor. When he tells me it's time to take a break, he'll just
Yeah,
lay on the keyboard and I can't write.
there you go. Sometimes you
Yep,
need someone like that.
it's true.
So, Deepak would like to know what your opinion of mermaids are,
I never dated one,
or
so I
what
don't
do you
know.
think about them in general.
I
So,
I,
there's
I
that.
have. I mean, I would if I was single, but I did have I met a
Right.
nice dolphin named Reggae in Jamaica like 2 years ago. She was pretty sleek and all that, but that fish breath was just not working for me, and my wife was not happy about it. So
Oh.
we had to break it off. But I know nothing about mermaids except that special on Discovery, which
Mhm.
really pissed me off because it was like a total setup and a fake, in
Yeah.
my opinion. And, it annoyed everybody. I felt like an idiot like feeding into it and everything. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
I
that I
I
thought
just
that was awful
yeah.
too.
I mean, I
Vincent,
think it
what?
would be great if they
Oh, go
existed,
ahead.
but I have you know know
Hmm.
nothing about it.
Right. Vincent wants to know, ever hear anything weird like mermaids or underwater UFOs?
I have seen that special. What's it called? Disclosure, I think is the name of it. It's a documentary about a gentleman who was
Hmm.
involved with the military and UFO technology. And according to that, and I actually purchased it to watch it, he claims that
Hmm.
they have reverse engineered UFO tech to the point that we, the US, now have craft that can fly at 24,000 miles an hour in the air. And by using that technology to create like a bubble around a craft, are able to go underwater at 500 miles an hour, which would make sense. I mean, the Shkval torpedoes the Russians developed did that, and they shoot through the water rocket propelled to 300 miles an hour. So I guess it's possible, but that's about all I know. But yeah,
Hmm. That's more than I know. So,
yeah,
so is
just what I
there
read.
any more? If Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm good.
Right.
Oh,
Does anyone questions?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay. Oh no, I was asking if anyone else had any more questions.
What are your thoughts
Can
on
you hear me?
Atlantis? Um,
Okay.
the I mean,
Yeah.
I know just what most people do, that it was supposedly thousands of years ago, an advanced technology that sank beneath the waves. Um, I don't know if they've ever discovered any concrete evidence of it, but I think it's a fascinating notion. I've seen stuff reported like people have found like supposedly like in coal like gears and things like that that go back millions and millions of years. So I mean, maybe there was an advanced civilization here before
Hmm.
us. Maybe we're not the first.
Yeah. Isn't there like a stairway in the Bahamas that they say it's like the stairway to Atlantis or something like that? I
I
think
don't
it's the
know. I
Bahamas.
I've been to the Bahamas, but I
Yeah.
never, you know, I never saw anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Let's see.
not sure if it is the Bahamas or not. I know it's one of those islands.
Any humanoid marine cryptids? Hi, Dizzy. The only thing I've ever
Yeah.
seen that would be a cryptid and related to the water was that Bigfoot swimming Bigfoot incident that we talked about earlier. So I'm sorry I can't be of more help with that.
No. So, if, is there anyone else who has anything else
Oh my
to
God.
ask? Are you okay?
Oh yeah, old age, COVID, cat hair, it all catches up with you.
I feel that. Trust me. So, is there? Okay, I wanted to make sure that wasn't the question. Is there?
What was that?
Oh, what that was? That shocked me. I don't know what that was. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about or promote?
Promote? I mean, if people are interested, first off, in terms of my stuff, the that mega shark video is definitely worth it because you're going to see giant bites like you wouldn't
Yes.
believe. That's on my YouTube channel, which is called Max Hawthorne's Book Trailers and Videos. Shows you.
Mhm.
I'm so brain dead. I don't even know the name of my own channel. Um, but
It's okay.
yeah, if anybody wants to check out the books, first off, you can go to my website. My author site is either maxhawthorne.com, make sure there's an E on the end, or cronusrising.com with a K. And there is a free books page on there where you can get downloads and stuff like that to check out. All the books, different formats, etc., are available. There's a blog, there's the Paleo Gallery that you can take a tour of, all sorts of stuff. It's a pretty cool site. Has a lot of stuff on there and everything, and all my stuff is available through Amazon, even the music.
Mhm.
So
And it's on Kindle Unlimited as well, right?
most of the stuff, yeah,
Is
you can read on Kindle
most of it?
Unlimited.
Okay.
Yeah, which is great. Oh,
Okay.
if you're going to get Monsters
Yeah.
and Marine Mysteries, I definitely
Mhm.
recommend the Kindle version because all the references, like the links, are live. So you can,
Mhm.
if you want to corroborate or check, information provided, you just click on it, boom, on the internet, it'll take you right there. So you don't have to go, copying URLs and typing and stuff like that. It really makes your life
Yeah.
easy for that type of stuff. And that's a good book. I mean,
Yeah.
in there, I got to interview people like that have had cryptid encounters. Nobody even knows they're still alive. I spoke to Rodney Ross at length, the sole survivor
Mhm.
of the Southside sea serpent. I mean, this sea monster from 1976 that attacked three different boats over 5 days
Oh
and tried to
wow.
kill and eat people. And he was right there. This thing almost ate the back of his boat with him and his dad on it. I got all the
Oh my
dirt, all the
gosh.
details. I mean, I found discrepancies with past versions of
Mhm.
the stories and stuff like that. I interviewed, what's his name, Gary LaMotta, who saw
Mhm.
that 38-foot turtle back in like 1969. His friend Earl is still with us, and I interviewed Earl, who was there and saw this monstrous turtle. I mean, great stuff. We investigated
Gorgeous.
mega squids, giant octopi. I got a witness; they saw an octopus down in Florida back in, I think it was 2014 or 2013. An octopus
Mhm.
that they estimated was 80 or 90 feet long. I mean, the list goes
Oh my
on
gosh.
and on. The Carnival Cruise monster is in there, all sorts of stuff. It's a really cool book,
Yeah.
and everything is very factual. I try not to be. I'm not preachy and like that. I
Mhm.
present the information. I give people what I think are possibilities, and then people get to draw their own, you know, opinions, or make their own judgment. I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
You know.
What is your favorite story out of there or favorite account?
Honestly, that giant turtle is probably my favorite, especially because I got to talk to Earl at length. Because I said to him, like, how do you know how big the turtle was? And he said, well, we had our two boats, X number of feet apart, and this turtle, which was almost white, like pale gray, was lying on
Mhm.
like a rock outcropping, like an uprise, like maybe 20 or 30 feet below them. And he said the turtle was as big as my boat, and my boat is 38 feet long. And he was
Oh,
looking
wow.
down at, and I said, "Were you a little nervous?" He goes, "Oh, I was quite scared. I was afraid he was going to get mad and come up and capsize us. Let me tell you, this thing was big. But it's just really, it's
Yeah.
just so cool to talk to somebody who's been right there, and such a rare occurrence. And there is footage of this giant turtle. I mean, it's old Super 8
Oh.
footage, but yeah, I took stills. They're
Mhm.
in Monsters and Marine Mysteries. I got Gary's widow's permission, and I enhanced them. And you can see
Mhm.
this is a giant turtle. It's looking right at the camera. It stuck its head up out of the water. You can see the eyes, the bags under the eyes, the beak,
Mhm.
the folds of flesh on the throat, all sorts of stuff like that. It's really
Oh
wild
my
stuff.
gosh.
Yeah.
How
So,
old is it supposed to be?
well, how old was the turtle?
Yeah, how old do you think it was to be? I mean, to
I mean,
be.
turtles can live a long, long time.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, Galapagos tortoises could be well over 100 years old. But I mean, this
Mhm.
was in 1969, I think, and this was an adult
Wow.
animal. There was another one spotted
Mhm.
a short time after in that same area. I found sightings of these turtles all over the place, going back sometimes 100 or 200 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even one where
I
it was
I would
attacked.
be.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go
No,
ahead.
there's
It's
even one
okay.
that looks like the turtle was attacked by a pod of orcas. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I mean,
That
you
that
could be
would be
a
scary.
30, 40 foot, turtle, but you're not. That doesn't mean killer whales can't get you. You know.
Yeah. And like
So
you said earlier, orcas, I mean, they seem nice, but they're very mean at times. I mean,
I mean, you see like one like swat a porpoise and send it like, or seal and send it 200 feet flying through the air. You know, it seems like they're like,
yeah.
hey, let's play ball. Who's up? Like that kind of stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
oh my God, I got a muscle cramp. Ow, 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 ow.
Oh,
Oh, old age
well,
creeping up on me. It's
no.
not even creeping up. It's like, hey, I'm here. You know.
Trust me, I understand that.
Mhm.
So, if you have anything else that you want to talk about or add, or any of your other books that you want to promote, we
Ow,
can
ow, ow.
wrap this up so you can go get some rest.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna put some ice on this or something. I mean, if people are, you could go, like,
Okay.
I'm on Facebook. There's a group called Monsters and Marine Mysteries, and people are welcome to join there. We post lots of stuff, from marine
Okay.
cryptids and other things like that, terrestrial stuff, etc., is of interest. And it's, that's
Mhm.
just it. I mean, I'm me. I'm easy to find. You know, people like the books. I'm happy to have more readers. You know, we do what we can.
Right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you putting up with me and staying through the entire show, even though you're sick. Trust me, I understand how bad COVID is. So I want to thank you
It
so much
is.
again, Max. I appreciate it.
Bernadette, it was my privilege and my pleasure. You got some great people, great readers, great fans. I'm happy to be here.
We are very lucky to have some great fans. We are. I adore them all, so they're wonderful. So, and I want to thank you again, and you have a good night. Thank you, Max.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and sticking with us. I truly appreciate it. And again, I want to thank Max Hawthorne for being here. He was an amazing guest. I totally enjoyed speaking with him. Next week, I am going to have Lily Nova as my guest. And Wednesday, Lon will be doing another report show, followed by Vincent. And then next week, Lon will be back in his regular time slot, and I will be following him again with Lily Nova. So thank you guys again, and have a good night. Bye.